Okay, we're going to go over the examples that you were given in the last video on adding and subtracting positive integers and with fractions and decimals. So this is part 2 of the video, going over the examples I gave you at the end of the last one. So if I had 1/6 plus 2 7/10, I would want to change these to decimals. So that would be my choice. So I would put 1 6/10 plus 2 7/10, because that's 7 in my tenths place. 6 plus 7 is 13. 3 goes down, plus 1 in my circle. Bring my decimal point down. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. Now, if my answers were in fraction form, I can just change my answer to 4 3 out of 10, or 3 in my tenths place. That's my final answer. My fraction is simplified, although in this lesson, I'm not going to focus on simplifying our fractions. So I circle my answer, and here's my work communicating how I got to my answer. Example number 2. I'm going to change this one to fractions. So 2 and 5 in my tenths place, plus 2, well, I have to stop. And now I have to think about and look up here to see I'm going to change my 5 to be a 10 in my denominator. So to get to the 5 to be a 10, my factor of change is going to be times 2. So I multiply the denominator and the numerator times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. So now I add my fractions. When I add these two fractions right here, I get 5 plus 8 is 13. So I have 13 tenths. Before I go to my whole numbers, I'm going to take this improper fraction and change it to a mixed number. So if I have 13, I can make one group of 10 with 3 out of 10 left over. This whole number is going to get added in with the other whole numbers. 3/10 is going to be the fraction part of my answer. So I put that over there. So now I have this 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5. I have 5 3/10. If my answer was in decimal form, I would have 5 as my whole, decimal for and, 3 in my tenths place. Circle my answer. Move on to example number 3. In example number 3, I'm going to practice again keeping them as fractions, changing them to fractions. So this is 3. 82 hundredths is 82 out of 100, plus 2 4 hundredths. Remember fractions first. 82 hundredths match, so 82 plus 4 is 86 hundredths. 3 plus 2 is 5. Now they might ask for this in decimal form. If they do, I just write my whole number of 5, and I have 86 hundredths, so 86 ends in my hundredths place. If they wanted fraction form, they may ask me to simplify that fraction. You can see their even numbers. You can start with that to make it an easier problem. But given the skill we're working on right now, your answer choices will probably stop right there. Let's take a look at the next one. Now we're switching to subtraction. I prefer to subtract as decimals. So I have 1 73 hundredths. I look at my factor chart in my notes, and I can see if I have 50, I can make it into hundredths by using the factor of change of times 2 to get to my hundredths. So I multiply my numerator and my denominator times 2 for 12 hundredths. Now, there's no whole number there. So when I write my subtraction problem, I'm going to put a 0 to show no whole number, decimal point, 12 to my hundredths place. I subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. Bring my decimal point down. 1 minus 0 is 1. Now, if they want it as a fraction, I simply say, okay, my whole number doesn't change. It's still 1. My fraction as a part is 61 out of 100. Circle my answer. Always circle your answers. Helps separate my math communication, which is what my work is, from the answer that I got because of what I did. One more problem. Let's go ahead and take this problem and we're going to change it to fractions just so that we can see that way. Now, I know this is 7 and 15 hundredths. I'm going to subtract. I have no whole number there. That's not in hundredths. So let's go to my hundredths chart. I want to make it in hundredths. So I find 25 as the denominator, and I see my factor of change is times 4. Oh, I could have known that. There's 4 quarters in a dollar. So 25 times 4 is going to give me that 100. Whatever I do to my denominator, I must do to my numerator. So I have 44 hundredths. So now over here, I have 44 hundredths. And now I'm in a situation that I have to regroup my fractions. So I'm going to take one of these whole, and that leaves me 6 wholes, and I'm going to break it into 100 pieces. So that means I'm going to add to what's there 100 hundredths, because that's one whole. So now I have 115 hundredths. So I am subtracting 115 minus 44. So 5 minus 4 is 1. 11, because I had to regroup right there, making that 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. So now what I have is 71 hundredths. Subtract my whole numbers. 6 minus 0 is 6. And I have 6 and 71 hundredths. I could have done this one easier, in my opinion, if I had changed it to decimals instead. Because decimals would have been 7 and 15 hundredths minus no wholes. Changed this still here. This didn't change. But that means I have 44 in my hundredths place. When I change it like this, now my regrouping happens the way I'm used to it. Where I have 5 minus 4 is 1. I need to regroup. So I cross out the 7, it becomes 6. I hope you're seeing some similarities here. Now I have 11 minus 4 for 7. Bring my decimal point down. 6 minus 0 is 6. So we can see the similarities there. Then I would need to change it to the fraction form of 6 and 71 out of 100, so that I could answer either way. Make sure you circle your answers.